The NBA All-Star Game for 2025 is done, but we got a lot to talk about when it comes to what it gave us and what it didn't give us. And I wanted to share some perspective. I've been a long time NBA fan since I was a kid. In the 89 was my first one watching ever. And from there, I just continued to watch all these All-Star games and be in love with the sport. That being said, today I don't want to be one of those people. If you clicked on this video hoping that I was going to say the NBA sucks and the All-Star game sucks, that's a lie. And that's not the truth. And I think that the narrative is fun to discuss and to have conversations. And the truth is, we all have our biasness on when we think it's our favorite. My personal favorite was the late 90s, early 2000s. For me, those were the golden eras. But I also absolutely admire the people that are here today and the people from the past. I understand that the game evolves in different ways. And yeah, so just know, like, I'm not one of these guys with the wrong perspective trying to give you an agenda. I'm coming at this with clean eyes as we watched the dunk contest, and that dunk right there was probably one of the best dunks of the night. And I got a lot to say about all of this, but first thing I want to talk about is that perspective of understanding, yes, it's not going to be what it used to be. That's okay. Let it change and develop into something different. And there's a kid out there who watched this dunk who is going to be the future dunk champion. And this inspired him right here to be able to jump over a car and a person and do a basically almost a split, dunk down all the way, and then bring it back with a reverse dunk. And God bless him for not falling over and cracking his head, which was my worry. And I actually have like a personal perspective that no props should be used. We need to stop using props because somebody's gonna hurt themselves one of these days, and you don't want to see that on TV. And yeah, hopefully it never happens, but I'm worried. I prefer natural dunks, just player and the ball. But that's just me. And like I said, things are evolving and changing, and these dunks sometimes are outrageous and exciting. But yeah, prefer to see just skill-based things, and that's a different conversation that we'll get into. But that is the point. When it comes to the dunk contest, for example, the first conversation I want to have is how we talk about, and when I say we, like myself, that the superstars of the league were the ones that were competing in these events. It was not some random kid like, who's this guy's name? I'm sure most people don't know. And there's a lot of them that don't know most of the guys. A lot of millions of fans are casual NBA fans. And that's okay too. I'm not here to judge you guys. I'm a hardcore fan, so I was rooting for Castle. I felt like he has the best dunk package. And I felt like he won the contest, which is a different conversation. It's outrageous, I know, but that's how I feel. Because he did natural dunks without using props and just actually doing very cool dunks. But that's a different conversation. I wanted to address the fact that, yes, these stars are not stars. They're just new and up and coming kids playing in a dunk contest. So you can see this in some random backyard. But the game has changed. And whether you like it or not, that's where it's at. The cool thing is, after this dunk contest, Ja Morant and a bunch of others, Anthony Edwards, and so much more, said that they're interested in competing next year. Doesn't mean that they will, but it does bring back exactly what we wanted, which is the superstars coming out and balling out on the dunk contest, the three-point contest, and all of the festivities, because this is more of a celebration of the NBA, in my opinion. But you want to have the stars you love and that you root for all year, the top players. This guy's not even the one guy who won the contest for 3 years in a row. It's not even in the NBA. That's how bad the lineups are, where they got a guy from the G League coming in and winning the dunk contest. And it's not like, Zion Williams or LeBron James when he was younger couldn't come out and put on a show. I mean, they could just dunk the ball quick and easy, and people will raw more for them than these people who they don't know. But the truth is, we can't control the narratives as far as like who's the superstars and who wants to show up. But it does feel like people realize we need the best stars to make it more exciting. A la Vince Carter. Vince Carter was the greatest in-game dunker I ever seen. Then he decides to go into the dunk contest. And any dunk that he did was going to be spectacular because you know how great of a dunker he was, and he was a superstar in the league. I went to games just to watch him dunk. I'm a New York Knicks fan, but I went to the Nets game just to watch Vince Carter dunk. So that just shows you like, wow, I just want to go in there and see him do something to body somebody. And, growing up, he retires, but we get 20 years of his game in there. And so hopefully next year we're going to see this. Superstars realize they need to come out and do their job, which is be a part of this. And, hopefully we see it. Now, my main point there is the same thing with the All-Star game is the same conversation I want to have. Where's the star power? The All-Star game got a new format. It had 4 teams competing. One of those teams happened to be the Rising Stars, which was a bunch of rookies that you don't know if you're not hardcore like me. And that's okay for me because I'm like, imagine if they won. It would be phenomenal. Of course they did it. Spoiler alert. We're going to show highlights in a minute. But my point is, in the end of the day, we need superstars. And we got to have a competitive edge. And that's what was missing from the actual All-Star game. And we're watching these last dunks here from Mac, who won this game somehow, which I felt like so should have won. But that's a different combo. But the point is you're watching this game, and I just didn't feel right knowing that like a random group, a roster, got to make it into the All-Star game. And I can agree with a lot of players who it's like they don't deserve to be here. We work too hard. People who get voted in deserve their spots. And so I agree with that. But I think they can still have a 4-team tournament, 2 in the West, 2 in the East. Basically make it so that the West, 2 different West teams have to compete against each other to see who can get the final spot to make it to the finals. And then the same thing in the East. And then what that can do, add a little competitiveness within the All-Star game and make it so like you're not going to play in the real All-Star game. You're going to be playing. And I would make it a 2-day event. I would make it that they would play on Saturday and Sunday, back to back. But it won't be full games, and it'll be shorter versions, to let the players rest a little bit, and it won't be too hardcore. And Sunday will be the final day where the main superstars get to get in. That's just how I think it would be cool if they did like a little mini tournament multiple days. Yeah, that's how I feel. Secondly, this game was competitive. They actually were playing well. If you go and I showed you the highlights for last year or before, they shot like 10 half-court shots, 20 half-court shots in the All-Star game, where it's like nobody cares about the game. They're just chucking it up to see who could hit, full court, half-court shots, logo shots the whole time. And then this game, people are actually trying to set pick and rolls, trying to drive and kick, looking for the open man, setting people up for easy dunks and layups, not forcing up, half-court shots that we play. Actually playing basketball. Of course, it's not like organized set basketball, but it's still basketball. And to me, this was a telling sign that like, hey man, this formula is shaking it up for the players, making them feel like, oh wait, we're uncomfortable here. We don't just get to be in this game and we don't, shoot half-court shots all game. Nope. You're going to have to play the game officially and get out there and ball out, because if not, you're fired. So to me, that's cool. There's a lot of different ways that this could go. Personally, the main idea I had was make it 8 teams. Basically, make it so that people vote in a bunch of players, and those players are on a roster. And it's kind of like a fantasy draft of the all-star votes. And then you set up a tournament within that. They have to compete against each other to be able to play on Sunday. So it's basically going to be like a 2-day tournament. Small games, 40-point games like they did here. But it's going to be intense. And that would be more than 4 teams. Make it 8 or 6 or something. And that's just my idea, to add a little more variety and a little more competitiveness. Like, hey, I want to play on Sunday. That's the main day that this championship is won. But that's just my view, man. I had a lot of fun just watching this, strictly because I was never seen this before. You know, we've seen the Kobe tribute, which I thought was one of the best ones in the new formats, and then this one right here, and it was the first time seeing it, and I like that. And a couple of gripes was Kevin Hart, man. Like, he wasn't funny for half of the sets. It took up a lot of time for Kevin Hart, and he was not that funny unless Shaquille was bullying him around. That was the funny parts. That's subjective, but they had so many commercials. That's not subjective. More commercials than ever in an All-Star game. It's like, I get it. It's a 2.5-hour game when you regularly play All-Star type thing, but this was like 2 hours of actual commercials and then 30 minutes of gameplay. Everything you're seeing here is pretty much the games. Games were to 40. So I'm not sure how I felt, but yeah, that was my biggest issue. And again, I want to see more variety and change. I'm okay with these changes as long as they keep trying to find new ways to innovate the NBA. I'll be excited for it. But that's my point of view. That's my thoughts on the All-Star game. Share something you think or you like, a format or something in general that you enjoyed about this weekend. And let's keep basketball alive, man. Super hype. See y'all on the next one. Peace.